Howdy, folks. I'm Jeff.
And I'm John.
And we are the J&J Show. And here we are at ETI on a road trip.
In Albuquerque, New Mexico.
And we've got Lester from Dorman.
Lester Dorman.
And you're hiding something down there.
Thanks for having me, guys. I want to start out with, this is twice in one day.
Awesome.
Don't tell everybody, but you didn't have all this product earlier.
I am hiding.
And we were talking about ETI and why they need to come. Now we're talking about your products.
Got it.
So
this is the hottest seller at Dorman right now.
Because we know this goes on Chrysler products, it's Jeeps.
It does.
And it's a certain engine. And the Lube Techs at all the quick change places, this is plastic, and they over-tighten it. And what happens? Oh, my gosh, that whole thing is moving.
That's right. I don't have the original plastic one here. So you're
junk anyway. Glad.
Right. So this one, we consolidated ours. It fits two different OE SKUs, 2011 all the way up to 2021. Everything uses the 3.6. About 8 million vehicles on the road. The other number 2 failure, Jeff told us about the first one, is back here where they take out the tools for injection molding. Right. They always wind up seeping and leaking, and also up front. So this is high pressure casted aluminum, and it does include, I apologize, we don't have all the other parts here, filter, cap, the oil cooler, everything comes with the kit. The only thing we don't include, because ours is consolidated and there's two different options, are the sensors in the front, but they're tied to it in the aftermarket cataloging. So depending on what year you have, if it's the 11 to 14,
you might need one, you might need 2.
15 and newer, right? Again, all covered by our limited lifetime warranty. 8 million vehicles on the road. We're very excited about it, and we do have these back in stock.
And I can see why you're excited about that.
All the gaskets, and of course this is on the back side, and the intake manifold sits right over here.
Correct.
So you can't even see to get to those pressure
you
sensors
can't.
and stuff.
When you open the hood, the front of the engine, all you essentially see is the cap. Everything else is covered. And again, being in there with the engine bay temperatures, it's a when, not an if failure. 100% failure on those applications.
So does yours come with a filter and a cap?
It does, with the filter and the cap. Because it's consolidated, it only will take the later model. We have an orange cap that has a silver stamped on there that tells you which filter to use, to make sure if you have the earlier model app that you use the proper filter when you're changing it.
Now flip that over.
Yep.
Because a lot of folks don't realize that they can be having coolant dripping in their driveway, because this has coolant ports and the oil ports.
Correct. It's got both running through it. So there's multiple failures to this. There's the injection molding areas, there's the lube shops you mentioned, and then there's also the seals.
And so it's like, hey, I want to bring my vehicle in. It's leaking coolant underneath. And you don't even think about, oh my gosh, this thing has coolant going through there because of where it's at and stuff. And a lot of times you can't see it. It's just off of the back of the transmission. We got a puddle of coolant going.
Yep.
And the oil, a lot of times, will actually pull around this right here. And so how can guys tell? Well, because this is all covered, the only thing you can kind of do is kind of shine a flashlight, and you'll see a pull of oil right here.
Yep. Correct. And there has been some of the misdiagnosis where they're bringing it in for that rear main seal. Customer comes back, still has the issue with it.
Every time they push on the gas, it leans everything all the way back on top of the bell housing, runs down the back of the bell housing in the engine, and now they think, oh, I got a rear main seal leak. When the whole time it's this POS that Chrysler put out to begin with.
Yeah.
Point of sale, by the way.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah.
That's one of the great things of being able to work with OEs is you, right here, you see the problems, and then we talked about this earlier about y'all redesign, because the manufacturer can't go in and all of a sudden go from plastic, because now you're talking about changing the tooling, changing the dies. That's one of the things to help you with.
I got one. Do we have one more minute, guys?
We got plenty of time.
Sorry, all right, so let me go over here.
I got to move out of the way. Look at these fuel lines right here.
So for all the shops that are in the Rust Belt areas, this is a direct fit flexible fuel line. This fits all the way back to your mid to late 1990s, all the way up to 2010. So when we first came out with our preformed brake lines, technicians loved them, but they said, Dorman, you guys got to also come out the fuel lines.
Yep.
This is a direct fit. This is the exact length of the vehicle. This will fit to the GM connectors, and we include mounting brackets because it's a little bit thicker than the preformed line. Think about all those times when you fight with the fuel tank to get that preformed line down. Now you're able to replace it with this line. It's going to save you at least 2 or 3 hours in labor. There's 15 different SKUs for all the different bed configurations, four-wheel drive, two-wheel drive. So we're really excited about this product as well.
And like
Flexible.
always, when somebody tells me they're saving 2 or 3 hours worth of labor, I'm thinking, cha-ching, baby, we're making some money.
Oh my gosh.
So I just
With
had
the
to
Dorman product.
Good deal.
And of course, right here,
That's a battery cable, Jeff.
but right there, you've got the sensor on
Current
there.
sensor, yep. More and more, with all the electronics on vehicles now, it's no longer a standard battery cable. These sensors are going bad. So the cable could still be fine, but again, to control all those different modules on the vehicle's network, you need to have these current sensors. When they go bad, they're tough to service separately. So we have a line of these. There's roughly about a dozen or so SKUs. These as well.
That's just great. The way this is, and of course this is the negative, but you know they have problems here, and then they're like trying to put a adapter or whatever, fixing it in. This comes built in, and of course that just has the little pigtail that plugs in.
And that's a great point too. It could fail. I mentioned the sensor failure. If you have the actual terminal fail, there's no way to get an aftermarket terminal work with this actual sensor.
Because they've ran up to the parts house to get their battery changed for free.
Good point.
They mess up the ends, and it's like, oh my gosh, what do we do now?
All right.
So
That's when
a
they
great-
leave that little black cap on there and the car don't ever start again.
Yeah. That new battery don't work.
A heater hose assembly?
So this is
Tell me, Lester.
So we have several hundred of these now. So we've identified a lot of the heater hose assemblies have plastic tees and plastic connectors. So we have about 200 SKUs. We've upgraded them all to aluminum. Typically, the hoses, we see them lasting longer these days. It's not like back in the days of the old school Chevy GMs where every 4 or 5 years you would test them, they would fail. They are lasting longer, but the other side, the downside is these connectors are definitely the weak point now. We've
And
been
just
very
like
successful.
on the end right there, hold that end up there.
Yeah, that
There's-
plastic end.
It's got the O-rings and the couplers in there, and so many times the heat, this cracks and breaks off, and then you're like, oh my gosh, we got an O-ring in there too.
And we weren't able to bring every SKU out here. Good news, Jeff. We also have the connectors, the quick connectors separately, and some of the O-rings, so you can just service that where the actual connector is fine. The real common ones I can think of now on the larger diesels, the hoses that are $100, $200 plus, we sell just the O-rings separately where it's just that's causing the leak. There's nothing wrong with the actual connector.
Don't you offer an O-ring kit? I mean, it has, like you're going to do all the hoses? You got all the O-rings?
Correct, for certain applications. I'm sure there's some we're missing.
The Ford diesels.
Yep. Yeah, on the 4 diesels, we have a whole entire kit.
And the reason why I said that, I remember my team last week installing that kit in a vehicle, and I was thinking, I hope I get to see my buddy Lester someday again.
It's been a long time. We've been communicating.
Yes.
Yep.
And I noticed some orange deals out there.
Oh man, you guys, this is.
And we all know that, of course, the diesels were using an orange, but now all the gas engines.
Yep. Do you know the story behind that? The value we had with that?
No. Tell
So
us.
we were holding an advisory council. At the end of the meeting, we basically asked the technicians, "What's bothering you the most right now?" And they said, "Changing the oil on the F-150s with the 3.5 EcoBoost, because I take the plastic drain plug out and the oil squirts right on the sway bar all over the place." So all we did, really simple, we added a secondary drain. So now the oil will drain right into the. Whoa.
That's a free sample right there,
Sorry about
folks.
that. So the oil will drain directly into the pan. So just something small. The technicians love it. We do really well with it.
Okay, so how does it?
So there's a screw on the front. So the original design.
Yeah, you twist it.
You would just take the whole entire unit out.
Yeah.
Squirts on the sway bar. Leave it in. There's a secondary here. You turn this.
Oh, you're turning that by hand.
Turn that by hand. Well, you could. There's also a tool you can use, or just a flathead screwdriver to loosen it up. There's a secondary seal in there. It'll drain right down in the pan. You don't have to worry about
I
the mess.
hadn't even seen those.
Yep. We sell them in as individuals and also in sets of 5 as well.
Oh my
That's
God.
just awesome. I love this thing.
That is
Dorman,
great.
making your life easier, folks. and putting more cha-ching in your pockets.
Lester,
guys.
thank you so much for
Really
taking
appreciate
time. We're hoping the video works with all the sound going on around here.
If not, we can redo it again tomorrow.
Yeah, as always, we appreciate you watching.